Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the SteelFlyers show. And oh my goodness, we have a very special guest here for you tonight. We got Steve from 5 Star Matchup. Hey! How you
Hey,
doing,
Steele, how's
Steve?
it going? Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I tell you what, I've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time. I couldn't wait to get you on the show, man, because we're gonna talk straight up Steelers.
Same. Very exciting.
First of all, congratulations on a very kick butt show that you just
Thank
released
you.
from the win. So,
Yes.
yeah, man,
It's
that's
always a lot better to make a win episode than it is a loss episode.
right. A
A lot better. It's
lot
a lot
better.
more fun to do the work.
And we'll take the wins all day long.
Absolutely.
So that's great. We're going to talk about the AFC North division winning champion Pittsburgh Steelers
Yes,
going
sir.
into week 17 here. And man, I'll tell you what, this game, this past game that we just had, okay, we're going to touch on a little bit of that here. So the first thing I want to do is this. Based off of everything that you've seen, what do you think your assessment would be, or just give me your thoughts on the run game?
Okay. Well, I think it's I would sound like a fool if I said it was anything other than poor at best. I think, you know, the run game, like you hear people say this about blocking a lot, where it's a lot more want to than it is talent or ability. And I think you could say that about the run game. Like, I just don't think that they've had a commitment to it. I think they have capable players at running back. I don't think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Um, I just think, it's tough because you're constantly moving between guys because Connor, I love James Conner. I never want to say anything bad
Yeah,
about
yeah.
him. But it's like, man, the guy, his body just can't do it. I'm sorry. Like, it's just,
Nope.
he comes in and you're like counting the minutes until he
He's
gets
running
hurt.
off or
And
whatever.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it, but it is what it is. And, and then Benny, I just think is a very different type of runner. And, I think we've had a process after Le'Veon left of figuring out, okay, what is our run game now,
Yeah.
Because it had such a distinctive style with Le'Veon where the offensive linemen were really doing more pass blocking for Le'Veon than they were run
Exactly.
blocking.
Yeah.
And I think they've tried to keep that same style and approach with James Conner and Benny Snell, but those guys are not those are guys that you want to get to the second level of the defense and you want to move forward,
You don't want to be standing up to run block for those guys like you did with Lev Bell. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And these guys are standing up to run block for Connor and for Snell and for McFarland. And I'm
And it's
totally
not,
convinced.
well, that's the
Go ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say it's not like, Dave and Marquise, like they can do any type of play. I think they're getting up there and I don't know if they're as good as they once were, but they're technically sound players. But, these young guys that are coming up, Chooks or especially Al, like we think of Al as a vet, but Al was never an offensive lineman until a few years ago.
Right.
He never, and so the only thing he's ever known is what we did with the Le'Veon offense.
Yep.
And so it's to now ask this guy at what is he, 31, 32 to
He'll be
like
33, I think, or is 33.
exactly. And you're going to ask him to put his hand in the dirt and figure out how to, plow ahead and run block. I'm not knocking the guy. He's a great dude and he was a very good player, but
Yeah.
you're asking him to do something that's not really his game, kind of like putting Vince Williams in pass coverage and stuff like that. You're just asking guys to do stuff
yeah.
that's not their
Yeah.
specialty.
I think one of the things that a lot of people overlooked was the loss of Coach Malarkey or
You mean
Munchak.
Munchak?
The loss of him. I was really not happy when he left.
No, I feel the same way. But I think I will say though that these are mostly vets on the line
Yeah.
that are struggling, and I think a big problem with the line this year is I think David DeCastro got hurt very bad early in the season. Remember, was it week 1 or 2? He hurt, I think, his pec.
Yeah.
And I think they've undersold that injury. I think he's tough guying it out
Yeah.
because he wants to play with Ben, which I can't say I blame him.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I can't play professional football, let alone with a torn pec or something.
Or
but
anything.
He doesn't look like
The same.
David
I agree.
DeCastro, and I don't think it's age. I think he's injured.
Yeah, I agree because he's not really that old, and he hasn't.
No, he's got a lot of mileage, but he's
But
not that
that's what
old.
I mean. Yeah,
He's
yeah,
younger
yeah.
than
That's what I
Pouncey.
mean. Yeah. So look, that to me, I think is. I think you hit the nail on the head right there with that. We do not. The Steelers do not have a commitment to the run game, and
No, they don't.
it's a sprinkling here and there. It's a okay. It's 4th and 1, or 3rd and 1, or 2nd and 1, and you're supposed to run the ball, and we're not. We're doing these little dink and dunk passes and stuff. So clearly, it seems like
You want to know another observation I've had about the run game, and I'd be curious to hear your take on this because I haven't really talked about it with many people. But I think sometimes when they do the RPO stuff, I don't think Ben is particularly good at that. I don't think he knows the right times to hand it off and when to pull it out. I really don't. And I'm not trying to knock him, but again, old dog, new tricks. I don't think it's his game. I don't think he really has the feel for that.
Okay. I'm going to have to agree with you 110% because that's not his game. He's never going to be the guy that's going to run.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't do an RPO.
Exactly. Peyton Manning wouldn't hand it off either.
You can't do an RPO with a quarterback who's not a threat to run.
Yeah.
See, that to me right there, you pointed out another glaring red flag as to what's going on with this offense and how disjointed and disconnected it appears.
Man, I really wanted to give Fiechner the benefit of the doubt because I kept going back to, it wasn't amazing, but in 2018 they were unbelievable in the red zone. I mean, they were. I think that they had the highest red zone scoring percentage in a long time. Like not just for the team, but ever.
Who was on the team?
Yeah, Antonio Brown.
Who else?
Juju and I mean. They were loaded. Don't get me wrong.
We had the Killer Bees in 2018, yeah?
No Le'Veon. That was Connor's
okay, that's right. Yeah,
year.
we were without Le'Veon.
But Connor was a monster that year until he got hurt.
But Connor filled in, and he didn't play the last game or two or whatever, and I think he missed the playoffs or something like that. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, but Connor came in and filled in.
But dude, it was AB. Look, no one wants to say it. Antonio Brown was that good. I mean, he really was that good.
I do not have a problem giving a guy credit for being out of this world talent-wise and good. And there was never anything about questioning his work ethic either. Because I never seen anybody work like that guy.
Yeah. No, he always puts in the work. I can never take that away from him.
However,
yeah, he's got certain deficiencies.
I think his head was accidentally jarred from his body.
But my point, though, on that, before I lose it, was that I wanted to give Fiechner the benefit of the doubt because I thought Haley had two glaring weaknesses, which were his personality and the red zone. Right. And I thought Fiechner did a really good job in 18. I said, well, the data is what the data is. And then people wanted to hate on him last year, and I was like, man, I just can't. When you got guys playing quarterback that, you have a team designed for a high-end quarterback, and you got Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges playing, I can't put that on the coordinator. He's doing what he can. They won 8 games. It is what it is.
I disagree. I completely disagree.
But then this year, I feel as though I've been pushed completely out of. Okay. I can't support it. I think he's clashing with Canada. Because you can see they're trying to use elements of what Canada wants to do or what the supposed Canada influence is. But whereas I think the same thing happened 2 years ago with Keith Butler and Terrell Austin. And I think it worked. I think it made the DBs better. It doesn't hurt that they got Minkah Fitzpatrick, but it made the DBs better. It made the pass coverage better. And I think it worked. But I think what you're seeing on offense is that they tried to emulate the same thing with Fiechner in Canada, and I don't think it's working.
I agree, because nobody's being fooled. You're doing two.
No one even looks at the reverses. They don't even look at the receiver that comes across.
Nobody is even going with the receiver when they're running up for in motion. Nobody's even going with them.
They don't even pay attention
Right.
to it.
So that means they know the play.
Exactly.
That means you've become predictable. That can't
It
be
really,
good.
it truthfully looks like somebody who doesn't, like, I'm not going to say Fiechner doesn't know football and doesn't know offense, because he definitely does. But I'm not going to, it looks like he watched the Chiefs on TV once or twice and said, oh, yeah, let's do that, but didn't really understand what the concept or the point was. And I'm not trying to be mean, but that's what it looks like to me. It looks like somebody was like, oh, we're going to do this too, but has no idea what the point of it is.
Because look, when you have we have too many players, and this is one of the things, and this is why I disagreed with you about last year. And I saw a lot of this so far this year too, where we do not have the correct players on the field for the correct situation. Now, Mike Tomlin,
that is true. That is weird sometimes.
Mike Tomlin talks about,
but that's always been weird.
Situational football. It's 3rd and 9, and Claypool is trotting off the field with Connor. What? Excuse me.
Yeah, that's weird. Now that I think about that, that's been weird for a while. That's been weird since Haley was around even. I mean, because AB was always on the field 100% of the time, but I remember there being a lot of times where you'd be like, why is Hayward Bay out there on 3rd and 9? Like, not that I like DHB, but like, let's see Martavis Bryant on 3rd and 12. Like,
what's going on? And here's another thing too. Why are you calling a play that is a slant route that's only good for 4 yards on 3rd and 9?
Yeah, but you don't know what of that Ben is audibling to at the line either, though.
Okay.
We don't know. We really don't know that.
I see it every single week, multiple times, and it doesn't work. And it's being called out, and it's being blocked, and it's being taken away, and yet they keep doing it.
But here's the thing is, like, Ben can do whatever he wants. So that's the conundrum you get into where you're like, well, wait, what's happening here? Because we've had a couple times where like Ben will seem to, like, earlier in the season when they first started saying, oh, Ben's drawing up plays in the dirt or whatever, he kind of no-sold that. He kind of made it seem like, no, it's not really what's happening. But then the players, like, you hear opposite things. Like Juju this week said, oh, Ben's just making up stuff at the line. And Ebron was like, no, this is stuff we practice. So I don't know who to believe, honestly.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to say that for 2018, I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you on that. Just because
2019, I think.
Or 2019, yeah, I'm sorry. Because of what I saw with what Fiechner did. The offense played the Wildcat with Jalen Samuels. That to me was just ridiculous. Okay, no. No,
it's ridiculous.
Okay, I'm not seeing a coach who seems to be knowing the right calls for the right situation, and I continually see that over and over and over again, and that's why I disagree with you about the year that we went 8-8. Yeah, we won 8 games, but
so I mean, but they did like a lot of it was just defensive brilliance, but there were moments last year against good defenses where they did pull out some moments like that. I always think about that Rams game. Like Mason Rudolph beat the Rams.
Yes, he did.
People don't want to give him credit at all for last year. He played well against the Rams.
And I liked how Duck played too. I was a big fan of Duck. In fact, I liked him better as a throwing quarterback than I do Mason Rudolph, because I think Duck has a better arm as far as accuracy.
I don't agree with that. He does not have a better arm. He has a better feel for the game, I think.
Okay, all right.
What I've said about the two is that if you could put Duck's moxie personality head on Mason Rudolph's body, you'd have a pretty good quarterback.
All right, I'll buy that.
The problem is Duck has no physical ability and Mason has no mental ability. It's
I'll buy that. I'll buy that all day, because Mason doesn't have that clock in his head.
He's slow to process. Man.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but you only got 3 seconds, man, and you got to be getting rid of that ball. He doesn't have the clock in his head.
He's a Big 12. He's a Big 12 quarterback to the nth degree.
Yep. Drop back, bounce back there a couple of times, look around, check down, and then throw the ball.
All you got to know about the defenses that he played in college, and this is not a knock on James Washington. James Washington is a solid professional wide receiver.
Yeah.
But all you got to know about the defenses he played in college is look at the statistics James Washington had. Like, he was scoring like 20 touchdowns a season or something at Oklahoma State. And like, nothing against the guy, but he's not, Randy Moss.
No. And you certainly can't expect him to be putting up those kind of numbers either. You know what I mean? So
No, and I don't. He's just a solid player, and I like him. But still, I'm just saying, look at what he did in the Big 12. Like, if that tells you anything about the defender.
Yep. Gonna have to agree with you on that one, though, for sure. But so, now, man, we came up with a new quarterback, Duck Mason.
Yeah, or Duck Rudolph.
Or Duck Rudolph, or Rudolph Duck. Anyway, pick one.
Rudolph Hodges.
Yeah,
because you can't get rid of the Duck. Yeah.
All right. I think we pretty much nailed the offensive issues.
Sure.
I am going to say this too. Yes, it was great to see the team rally around Juju. It was great to see the team rally around Ben, and the rest of the offense was able to rally around and take care of business. Okay.
Yep.
That in and itself goes to the caliber of players I think that are on the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't when you have to dig deep like that. Okay, and come back from that down.
Well, I think. I think one of the knocks that I've heard on Tomlin that come from people who are sort of less in the Tomlin camp, in terms of supporting him or thinking he's a good coach or a great coach, is that people often say, well, he's been carried by great players. And we've had many scenarios over the last decade plus, where either a tremendous defense or Roethlisberger and AB being Roethlisberger and AB, or Le'Veon Bell just pulls 250 yards out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people will say, like, oh, well, he benefited from that. It wasn't anything he did. And they'll talk about, oh, well, they come out flat, or they come out this, or they come out that. But then at the end of the day, like, he's still the man in charge of having those people as the centerpieces of his team, So I don't know how you evaluate, like, how much is because they have star players who are capable of individual brilliance versus we actually have a management in place that's putting those things in place consistently,
See, that's that fine line. That's that.
Yeah, between squashing grapes and drinking wine.
That's exactly right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only you can have great players and you can have star players, but you got to be able to have the coaching to be able to put that team together. You need to be able to have a team together. Okay?
Exactly.
And it doesn't seem like Pittsburgh has a team right now. It just doesn't seem like they do. I mean, what I mean by that is this. Look, I really think that the team is able to put together enough information and enough wins to go where they need to go, but they just feel very disjointed. You know what I mean? Like, they don't feel connected. They don't feel like they're part of any, like, it's...
I think you could see. I think I see that. I think is a little bit. I would have to call you out on that as a little bit of recency bias, because I think somewhere around the time of, like, beating, like, the Titans and the Jaguars and Bengals, Cowboys, that to me felt like a team where we were, like, sitting here kind of collectively being like, wow, this is a team right now. Like, they're not winning by just having big offensive performances. They're not just getting 10 million turnovers. Like, they're just finding how to win the game.
Okay.
And I think that, it's unfortunate having these losses happen in a streak, but also if they happened in isolation at 3 different points in the season.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And we were here. If I look at it this way, if I told you in August that the Steelers were going to be 12-4, win the division, and beat the Ravens twice,
I'm good.
How many you would have signed up for that 100 times out of 100? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I'd sign up for that.
And
all
so,
day
like,
long.
I think there was a point where they were what you would call a team. I think we saw. I think the perfect bellwethers for that are Eric Ebron and Juju, because you see that people want to turn in on their happiness when they're doing poorly. People get mad. Fans who get really depressed about losses are upset that a guy like Ebron or Juju could still have fun if they dropped a pass. It's like, dude, they're playing a game for a living. Like they have to have fun.
You can't be that wrapped into it.
And so I think, if you looked at a couple weeks ago, I think you were looking at a team where you were like, they're getting galvanized. They're figuring out how to win. It doesn't always have to be pretty. So I don't know. I think that's a little bit of losses kind of making you feel a little bit of a way.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but here's where I'm coming from. I've seen these red flags throughout the entire season.
True.
Okay, yes, we've won 11 straight games, but we did it by exactly what you said, finding a way to win. They weren't pretty. They weren't great. Some of them were ugly, let's face it. And then the fact that we played 3 games in 12 days with no time off, no break at all whatsoever, right? And the whole mantra was, we don't care, right? Mm-hmm. Look, I still don't care, okay? 3 losses in a row doesn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered if we would have done them throughout the season. We're still 12-4 or 13-3 or whatever we end up being, you know what I mean?
The situation with the Ravens game changed the mentality of this season. It's not even their fault. In my opinion, that game shouldn't have been played when it was played. Agreed. They should have accepted at that point that we needed an extra week. It would have avoided what happened with the Broncos
and everything else.
Because that was a travesty. I'm sorry, the Broncos having to play that game was ridiculous and unfair to them. It happened. This could happen. We're living in times where we don't always all know the best thing to do. And so I thought that was ridiculous and kind of shameful, to be honest. Yes. And I felt the same way about the Steelers playing on Wednesday. Come on. These are creatures of habit, and you're going to delay their game 6 days, and then you're going to delay their next game 1 day. Are you kidding?
Right. And then, you're going to make them play 3 games in 12 days?
Yeah, I mean, that is it's been pointed out that when you play a Thursday night game, it's not that different because I think you play 3 games in 13 days. So that element is not that insanely different.
But when you don't have time off, when you don't have any of the week off, and then you don't have that long week in between playing, say, a Thursday game and then playing the next Monday game.
No, exactly. And it totally changed everything. Right. I'm a student of human psychology. Like, I love analyzing what people are saying. And 2 of my favorite people to listen to on the Steelers, obviously, as they should be, because they're the most important, are Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. And I always read into what they say. And after the Ravens game where we squeaked it out, Ben on his he got interviewed by like Tafoya or whoever on that broadcast. Yeah. And he said, what do we got? Our little doubleheader. Washington's coming in 2 days or something. And he was being like sarcastic in that way that Ben will be sarcastic, like the new Ben, where he's like, you know what he's saying, but he's like saying it in the right way with a smile on his face. And I just was like, oh, wait, something changed. And they felt like they were wronged. And I think they're right. I think they were. No team was affected more by the COVID situation than the Steelers, and they didn't even have a problem with it.
And they played and everything. I mean, I think the only other team
they didn't even have an outbreak, and they were affected twice by 2 different teams for multiple periods of time.
I mean, we did have a little one where we lost Connor and Pouncey there for a little bit, and that was kind of during.
But that's not. Yeah. That's not like what happened with Tennessee and Baltimore,
right.
And both of those happened the week that they were playing us.
I'm with you on that for sure. But okay. Do you agree with Tomlin resting Ben this week?
100%. And I was on the camp that I wanted them to win against the Bengals and rest him for 2 weeks.
You mean just Ben?
Yep. I wouldn't but they didn't. I mean, it's a moot point because they didn't beat the Bengals. Right. But I was saying it going into that game, as long as you got to win, because I didn't think he was healthy, and I still don't know if he's healthy. But I would have given him the time off. But I have no problem taking him out this week. I wouldn't be playing Joe Hayden, Minka Fitz. I wouldn't be playing TJ.
Okay, why?
Deontay, especially, he's been banged up too.
So you're thinking you're in the line of thinking of you're in that line of thinking that it's okay to rest these players.
Yeah, man, they're tired. Like you just said, they didn't have a real
Okay,
bye
I
week,
get it.
and
I get it. Okay, but it hasn't bode well for us in the past when we've rested players, especially at a very key juncture in the season. And I think that although everybody's saying that week 17 doesn't mean anything,
mm-hmm.
to me, it's a key juncture for the team mentally. Because you came off of 3 really not good games and you lost. And you finally were able to come back and put one together and come from behind and win one. Okay. And now you're going to take that momentum and basically just shove it in the closet by taking all those guys off the field. My opinion only.
Yeah, but you know what my argument to that would be, though, is that if you're Tomlin and you're looking to build confidence before you go into the playoffs, to me, going into a must-win game against your bitter rival who's dying to get into the playoffs for the first time in forever, you're going into their house. They're a good team. To me, like if you go into that game and play poorly, you're doing a worse job for your confidence than saying, look at what we did the last time we were out there. And to me, that's that line with Tomlin where you're like, well, wait, what is he doing here? Like, is he playing the 2D chess or the 3D chess? And like, I do kind of think, you know what? You can't go into the into the postseason on a higher note than that. You really can't. It was so emblematic of what we've seen this whole season. And, if you go out and you lay a stinker against the Browns with Mason Rudolph, no one's losing confidence over that because it's kind of what, they won't say it, but I don't think James Washington expects to win a game. I don't think Juju expects to win a game with Mason Rudolph against a team that needs it. So I don't think you can hurt your confidence.
Okay.
All how you look at it.
Okay.
All how you look at it.
That's another reason why I wanted to talk about this is because that's a completely different. I am not a fan of that at all. I am not a fan of resting players at all because I think that you mess with momentum. Now, if it's one thing where if you go into that game and you play the first half and you're up by, say, 2 scores, or even if you're not up by 2 scores, you play the first half and then maybe you can think about sitting down.
But I think that's, to me, all you're doing is limiting injury, but you're not giving any rest at that point. You still had to get up, you still had to get ready, and you still had to play. To me, it's all about this. To me, I think, what I look at when we talk about the exhaustion of the season, it's not about the fact that they had to play on a Wednesday and that they had to play on a Monday.
Right.
It's that, okay, Sunday, we play a game. We have our hated rival coming in. We have 3 days to get ready for this. It's Thanksgiving. Like, let's go. We have to put, nose to the grindstone, play this game. And then it's like, oh, no, you're not playing on Thursday.
They kept
You're
pulling
going
the
to
rug out from
probably
under
play on Sunday, but, we'll see. And then it's like, okay, we're playing Sunday. We got till Sunday. It's Thanksgiving. We got till Sunday. Then it's like, oh, it's going to be, was it Tuesday and then Wednesday? I don't even remember. It was right. It was then they made it Tuesday and then Wednesday.
Yes, it was supposed to be Tuesday, and then they changed it again to Wednesday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that mental exhaustion of, oh, we gotta deal with this and we gotta deal with this. I mean, I know just as a fan how frustrating it is when you're getting ready to watch your team, and these are dudes who are getting ready to go put their literal life and limb out on the line. So to me, it's that mental element of rest. And for a guy like Ben, I think you give him the day off. And I don't think his knee's 100% either.
All right. Okay. I'll buy Ben. I'll buy that. I'll go ahead, sit Ben. But I wouldn't really be sitting anybody else. Because for one, I think they need the reps.
Okay. Well, but then it depends on who you're talking about. Because Joe, you give off.
Give Joe off.
And Minka and TJ, they are so invaluable to me that there's no point going into the season. There is no point playing a playoff game if you lose Minka Fitzpatrick. I'm sorry, there isn't. Like him or TJ are just too important. And I thought Bud was there too, unfortunately. But
well, you know what? Here's the thing, and this is one of the things too, where you look at a player and you say, well, man, we can't play without him. Well, guess what? You have to learn to play without those players because everybody's expendable on a team.
There's a difference between learning to play without them, though, and winning a championship.
Agreed.
There's a difference.
And here's the best thing, though, too. And with what you said on your video was that I do believe we're going to get Splain back for the playoffs.
Yeah, I hope so. Mike didn't really know today, but I think he'll be back for the playoffs. I don't think you'd rush him back for this week anyway, because why?
Right. Well, no, he's not even eligible. Or wait, he's...
No, I believe he is eligible.
Yeah,
to
he's
play
eligible
this week
to play, but they're not gonna.
No, why would you?
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Well, I'll tell you what, man.
He's a good player, man.
I've been impressed with him. Very impressed with him that he was able to come in and play so well. I mean, man, where did this guy come from? Never.
You know who else I'm impressed? I'm impressed with Marcus Allen at linebacker, man. I thought he's played pretty well as a linebacker. He's not an every down linebacker, but as a utility guy to have on your team, I think he's a useful piece.
See, now I got the privilege of watching Marcus Allen play at Penn State. Okay,
yeah.
And he was a hitter. Like he was that like safety that was the hitter. And he would come up and be that run stuffer and everything like that. So that dude knows how to tackle and he knows how to hit. So
no, he does. He's got a motor. I've been very impressed with him at linebacker. I think that's and those are those little things like, again to that Mike T point where it's like, hey, they had the wherewithal to say, we got this guy. He's not really cutting it as a safety, but we like who he is, what he represents. He's been in our system. And now you get down the season, you need a 4th and 5th linebacker, and they had the guy.
Yeah.
So I got to give him credit for that.
Here's the thing. And everybody's going to, pile on. Everybody hates Tomlin, this and that and everything, I have a few issues as well with Tomlin. He's probably not going to go down as my favorite Steelers coach.
Sure.
Okay. I would consider him more to be a Steelers manager than a coach.
Yeah, but man, that's the job.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
I'm coming old school though, so.
No, I hear you, but look at the old school, man. Since he's come back, John Gruden has really struggled. They have not gotten any better.
I was never a big fan of John Gruden anyway.
But sure, I mean, that was just off the top of my head of like old school. You know what I mean? Like, I think, I think it's a different job. I have to give Mike the credit of, what? He's done this for a high level competitor for a long period of time. I gotta say he knows how to do it better than I know how to do it.
He's got some
like
Lombardies.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, he's got the one.
Can't
he's
argue
got the
that.
one.
You know what I mean?
And so
14 seasons.
I don't know. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong on Mike. I'm just saying it's a really tricky evaluation.
It is.
And I feel like it's hard to say one way or the other about, where he sits in some pantheon, because as a Steelers fan, it's easy to get down about certain things. But then if you take a step back, you realize, wow, almost like 30, 29 or 30 other franchises, he would be the best coach in the history of their franchise.
Easily. Just with the numbers.
I mean, really, like, how do you take a step back? Oh, well, he only won because he had Ben the whole time. It's like, but he still did it. Right? I mean, the Lions win 6 games and they got Matt Stafford. Not saying he's good as Ben, but still. No, but you know what I'm saying? It's not, look at what Deshaun Watson's doing. Deshaun Watson is one of the best players in the sport, and the Texans are horrible.
Pretty much. I mean, can't argue that. I mean, hey. But, look. All assessments aside and things of that nature, you're going to have to take everything that, every coach does with a grain of salt. Because Chuck Noll had his style, Bill Cowher had his style, Mike Tomlin has his style. Okay, and every coach has their style. Ron Rivera, John Fox, you name them, they all have their own style. You know what I mean? Buddy Grant had his own style. Marv Levy had his own style. You know what I mean? All these old coaches, they all have their own style. And even the newer coaches today that are coming out, and they got their own style too. You know what I mean? So
Well, you got that like McVay / like Kingsbury
Yep.
kind of like young,
That's exactly who I was
I'm
gonna
like
talk
the
about, yeah.
players coach who's also like a savant genius. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think Canada is kind of in that.
He's in that vein.
He's in that vein. Okay. And I want to see him. I'm going to say it right now. I'm coming right out and saying it. I want to see him be the offensive coordinator next year with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I think that I think he was hired with that in mind.
I hope so. I really hope so, because I really think that Mr. Fiechner should return as a quarterback's coach.
I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll just retire. But
Whatever.
I think, but I think, the Steelers can be loyal to a fault at times.
Yep.
And I think you've seen that happen over a period of time where we had that uncomfortable sort of divorce with Dick LeBeau.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Which, as a fan, you hated it, but still, like, watching it on the field, you're like, man, you can't just keep doing the same thing if you don't have the same players. And it was hard to watch and hard to knock him because you knew what he accomplished.
Exactly.
But at some point, you're like, it just needs to be different. It doesn't necessarily need to be, the next Dick LeBeau. And I thought at first that Keith Butler was going to be a disaster, but I got to give Keith Butler. I got to give it. I mean, he looked terrible for a couple for about was 14 or 15 his first year. I just remember that first game where Peyton Manning just destroyed him.
The year after Troy Polamalu left was the last year of LeBeau. So that was 15.
The last year,
14 or 15.
I think Polamalu played until 14, but I think LeBeau was gone after that year.
That's what
too,
I mean.
Right?
That year.
Oh, okay.
That year he was gone too.
So that would be 15. And I just remember, like, for a year and a half, you had all these guys who were just like, oh my God, nobody knows where they're supposed to be. And it looked hopeless. I was like, this is not going to work out. But honestly, Butler's done a great job.
I actually read some articles about him, and he actually kind of studied under Dick LeBeau. If you notice, a lot of the blitz packages that he uses
defense.
Are almost the same blitz packages that LeBeau was using. It's that zone blitz.
Well, he's been able to, what he's done, and it's the exact opposite of your point on the offense earlier, is that he uses his personnel. He lets the personnel dictate the scheme a little bit more. You never would have seen Dick LeBeau using Mike Hilton as a linebacker. I mean, Mike Hilton is a linebacker for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
He is. I mean, he's essentially a middle linebacker.
Exactly.
And you never would have seen him do that. He just, he had his system with his 3-4 system, and it was what it was. But Butler's been really flexible about that, and I give him credit.
And I will
for
also
that.
say this too, and this is something that a lot of people don't necessarily realize, or maybe they understand or whatever. But Mike Tomlin had a lot more influence on the defense after LeBeau left. Okay, and I think he's got more of a hand in the defense now.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No doubt.
Than when he's ever had. Okay.
I mean, that's just human. That's just the human element. I mean, of course he does. If you think about it, it's like when LeBeau came in, it was that uncomfortable marriage of he wants to do this, but I come from this. How do we? It's the same thing we talked about earlier with Canada and Fiechner, where it's like, how are we marrying these two styles? And I think what Butler's been able to do is work with Tomlin and Terrell Austin on creating this new scheme where it's like, well, we have these two bookend defensive ends, then we got the two pass rushers, then we play a lot of like sub package stuff.
Difference. There's a big difference in what you're saying. You're talking about using the players to dictate your scheme. Yeah. You don't dictate the scheme to the players. No, you can't.
And Steelers fan will never want to hear this, but who did that well too was Todd Haley.
Oh yeah. And
Todd Haley ran a good offense. He had two fatal flaws, which were the red zone and personality. He needed to go, but he ran a good offense.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to take a good enough offense to 2 Super Bowls.
Todd Haley,
partially. I mean, he took most of what Arizona was what he put together.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
You know what I mean? And then the following year, he ended up against Arizona as our offensive coordinator.
Oh yeah. No. Todd Haley wasn't here yet.
Todd Haley?
Todd Haley didn't come here till like what? 11, 12?
We went to the Super Bowl against Arizona with Todd Haley as our offensive coordinator.
No, Arians was still the offensive coordinator then. I know because Arians was the offensive coordinator in 2010 because he had been throwing in the third Super Bowl that
Against
they lost.
Green
He
Bay.
had been throwing from his
Okay,
end
all right.
zone.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
all
that
right.
was still Arians. I don't think Haley came around until 2012.
Okay, all right.
But I see your point though. I think Todd Haley was a little better than he gets credit for, but he was kind of a jerk and needed to go.
No, see, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I think he did have a good offense and did run a pretty good offense and was able to maximize a lot of what Ben's skill set was and the personnel on the field. But yeah, his personality just was one of those raw things, whatever. He actually came from Kansas City to be the offensive coordinator, not from Arizona. He was the head coach there, and then went to Kansas City, then came to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
What do you think about this team here, man? Do you think we can? Do you think the Steelers can win a playoff game? Do you think this is the stairway to 7? How do you feel about that?
I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, as they're currently constructed, I believe that they can actually win a championship this year. I think that that's not what I would, bet the house on happening. But I believe when I look down the list of teams that I think could do it, I think there's 2, maybe 3 that I would say are more likely, in my opinion. But they're there. They have what you need to have. They have, in my opinion, the best defense in football, and they have a Hall of Fame quarterback who's capable of beating and outdueling anybody when you make him do it or allow him to do it.
Key phrase. Allow him to do it.
And I don't know that they're going to figure these things out and get them right, but I believe that they have the roster to do it. I felt more strongly about it before Bud Dupree got hurt, because I think when you just have a monster on either side like that, it makes your defense absolutely unstoppable. However, I will say Alex Highsmith continues to play very well and get better. He's not Bud Dupree, but he does some nice things.
I'm going to say this. I think that we probably have seen the last of Bud Dupree because of Alex Highsmith.
Yeah, and I think that was going to be the natural progression of things anyway.
Because we're not going to be able to continue to allow Bud Dupree from the 806.3 to be the highest paid man on the planet.
The only difference that could happen is if between the salary cap going down and the injury, if Bud, is in a situation where he wants to take a 1 year and rehab somewhere where he's comfortable, come back opposite TJ Watt. I mean, if you really think about it from his perspective, if you're not going to get the long-term deal you were going to get, because he was going to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you're not going to get that, why not take 1 year, 9, 10, 11, 12 million, I don't know, something like that, rehab with the franchise that you're comfortable with, and then come back opposite your buddy and go try to kill it for a couple months.
I just don't know if that's it
might not be the case. It's just it's something that's crossed my mind.
I agree, though. I do agree that the Steelers have the roster to win the Super Bowl right now, and not just right now, but I think they have the roster to win the Super Bowl next year too.
It's gonna be tough. I believe that this is your best. This is your best last chance, in my opinion.
Has to be the year, because next year the salary cap's coming, and it's going to be bad for Pittsburgh.
It's going to be tough. They're going to be able to figure out. They're going to do better with it than people think, because they always do. I'm sorry. Every year I've been a Steelers fan, I hear, they got no cap space. They're gonna have to do this. They're gonna have to do this. But then it's like they re-sign Antonio Brown for $100 million. They tried to sign Le'Veon for however much. They take care of their best guys. And I think if you're looking at a defense, you can find the rest of the pieces. But if you're looking at a defense that has T.J. Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick as the cornerstones for the next decade, which I think we're looking at,
we're good.
You're good. I mean, you have a defense. I really believe that you have at least an above average defense.
Agreed.
Regardless of the other 9 starters, if you have T.J. Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick,
and
I believe they're that good.
And I also think too that whether or not we have Bud Dupree or not, but I think Alex Highsmith is good. And then when you bring Bush back,
well, yeah, you got. I mean, that's the other thing. Bush. I mean, I'm not. I am less sold on Devin Bush than a lot of people. I love the ability, and I think he's amazing. But I do think people are a little sold early just because of the ability. I think he is playing a position where he's going to naturally get statistics because he's playing middle linebacker in the Steelers system. I mean, Avery Williamson got 13 tackles last week. And so I'm not knocking Devin Bush. He can be great, and I think a year away is actually going to help him. But I'm not convinced yet that he is going to be as good as like Devin White is in Tampa.
Okay.
Or,
all right, I'll give you that.
I'll
give you that. I mean, this was only his second year.
Yeah, he's growing. I don't expect guys to be, it's just in the same way that no one wants to give Terrell Edmonds any credit for being pretty good this year. I'm not ready to just say, oh, Devin Bush is great because he was our highest draft pick in the last 15 years.
I thought Terrell Edmonds was a great pick by the Steelers, and I've really been impressed with how he's been able to improve his game every year, every week.
And you know what? The guy never misses a snap.
He's played every game.
Every single game. I mean, the hate he gets online, like you would see. I had somebody take offense to the fact that in my episode this week he made some mistake. I forgot what it was, and I said the usually solid Terrell Edmonds misses his coverage, and somebody was like, "You lost all your credibility the second you said usually solid." And I'm like, dude, I look at the tape every week. I'm not acting like I'm some genius, but there really haven't been very many times where I needed to call out Terrell Edmonds this year.
Tape doesn't lie. What?
I mean, last year all the time, but this year, honestly, I really have had very few problems with Terrell Edmonds.
Now, his first 2 years were growing pains, and he was learning and the whole 9 yards. So, but I really like what he's done with his game this year, and I look for him to maybe have a breakout year next year.
Yeah, you could totally see it, and that'd be great for him because he'd be the 4th year of his rookie deal. So he'd be just like Bud.
That would be a great story for us. Yeah, boy.
I don't think, the thing with him, though, is I think he's a situation where the people get mad at higher draft picks when their ceiling isn't that high. Like, I don't think Edmonds' ceiling is that high, but I think he's a situation where, like, if he's the 9th or 10th best player on your defense, I think that's a pretty good defense.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's pretty okay. I mean, look.
Not everybody's going to be T.J. Watt or Minka.
Thank you.
I don't think Terrell, his career could go as great as it could go. I don't think he'll be like a Pro Bowler, but I think he'll be a very good starter in this league for a long time. Yeah. He might make a Pro Bowl or two. I guess my point is he'll never be like an All-Pro.
I mean, look how long it took Cam to start making Pro Bowls. I mean, now I think he's been completely underrated his entire career.
He has, but he didn't get that national credit till like 17.
That's what I mean. So, I mean, we know, we see. We look at games and footage and we see, So, yeah. I really like the Steelers' chances, but I do have some red flags. I'm definitely in for the long haul. I do think there are some red flags on this team that need to be addressed in the offseason, and some of that involves coaching. Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think that you can't knock a team that's gone 12-4 or 13-3 or whatever we go, okay, and win the division. Because if you win the division, that's an automatic seat at the dance.
It is, and
that's what you play for. Who cares how many? As long as you win enough games to get a seat at the dance.
Exactly. That's all that you have to do is you just have to get in. And I think they could be in a unique position here where if they start to embrace this new direction on offense, it could almost be like an inverse situation than what we were talking about the last month where it's like, oh, everybody knows every play that's coming and it's so predictable and they're calling out the plays at the line. And then it's all of a sudden it's like, wait, what are you guys doing on offense? Like, I mean, can it not be an advantage that we kept, this Ben chucking it deep stuff under wraps? I'm not saying they did it on
Right.
purpose, but it could end up being an advantage.
Right. You remember when we went 7-5? The Pittsburgh Steelers went 7-5 the year that the Steelers went to the Super Bowl and won against the Cardinals, and the team was 7-5, and Coach Cowher.
You mean in 05?
05, yeah,
they beat the Seahawks.
Right,
yeah.
And Coach and wiped off the board and everything like that, and said we need to win all the rest of these games, whatever. And they won the games, right? And so they came out the first game of the playoffs, and everybody thought, "Oh man, Pittsburgh's gonna run, blah blah blah." Everybody figured it out, blah blah blah. And what did they do? Ben just opened it up, 80-yard bomb down the field. What?
They that's one thing about Ben's career that gets woefully misrepresented is that he was terrible in that Super Bowl, the first one. But he was unbelievably good in the playoffs getting there. That was as good of a 3-game stretch of his career, and it was his first or second year.
Something like that.
Crazy.
Yeah, you know what? Come on. Second-year quarterback saying, "Don't worry, I'm going to get you back to the Super Bowl."
He lit the Broncos up in the
AFC Championship. I know. And then lit up the Cincinnati Bengals too. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you think we're going to see? Do you think the Steelers are going to see? Who do you think the Steelers are going to see in the playoffs, first round? Who do you think?
I think it's looking like they're going to probably end up playing the Ravens.
You think? If the Steelers lose to the Browns, what happens?
I think the Steelers are assured to get the 3 spot no matter what.
Even if they lose to the Browns, it's 3rd seed because of our record 12.
Yeah, I don't think we can fall. I don't think we can fall lower than that.
Okay.
And I think they can go to 2 if they were to win and Buffalo lose. But if I'm not mistaken, Buffalo's got like kind of a stupid game.
They do because they beat us. So any tiebreaker,
but I mean, you got like an easy game.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, yeah. Well, they.
Oh no, they play. Buffalo's got a tough game. They play the Dolphins, who need it to get in.
Okay, so they're playing against the Dolphins, who need to win to get in.
So it could happen. I mean, the Steelers, if they beat the Browns, which I think, man, the poetic justice. I am so excited to see Mason. This is so much fun because it's like, who cares if they win or lose? But man, if Mason Rudolph goes into Cleveland and knocks the Browns out of the playoffs, it would just be sublime.
You know what? I would pay tickets for that.
Oh my God, it would be.
Is Garrett playing?
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
No, because he's been on the COVID list.
I knew he was out a while ago, but I'm sure that if there's anything in his power to get on the field, they're gonna have him on the field. But,
I would have to pay tickets for that. I'd buy tickets for that game, to see Mason Rudolph take out Cleveland Browns and have them sit at home for the playoffs. Yeah,
it would be beautiful. But I mean, so yeah, I think the most likely scenario at this point is that the Steelers would play the Ravens, which is gonna be tough, man, because you already beat them twice. It's tough to beat them 3 times.
I don't know. That would be a much tougher game than it would be to say go against the Browns or the Dolphins, maybe. You know what I mean? Depending on.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, but that is what it is, and you just got to beat who's in front of you. I think.
Wouldn't you much rather have them though?
Who?
The Ravens?
Than
anybody else?
Who? I mean, for like the on paper like excitement and everything, like I want to play the Ravens, but if I'm being honest, the Ravens are probably the team I would least like to play. Yeah, I mean they're getting their stuff back and working now, and they do what the Steelers have trouble with since Bush left, which is that side to side, in the run game, the lateral movement.
Exactly.
I mean, if you look, I was looking at the stats for the season, like game by game, like before we started talking, and I don't think the Steelers have given up I don't think they've given up 300 yards this year passing. They haven't. I don't think they've given up the highest passing total they gave up this year was 273 yards. But they've also given up 265 rushing yards to the Ravens in the first game we played.
Okay, so
I mean, they
yeah,
give up a lot of rushing yards for what we're used to seeing the Steelers give up, and it's because they've had no middle linebackers.
I mean, that kind of hurts when the people that are responsible to stop the run ain't there, or you got the second and third string guy in there playing it. Although, Spillane and everybody else that's filled in, and Madu and all them guys have all played really, really well. They're not your starters.
No, I mean, they've given up. Here's a stat for you. They've given up, if it shows you anything about fatigue, they've given up over 100 yards rushing 7 times, 8 times. But 7 of those have been since November.
Oh, man.
So if that shows you anything, like September, they gave up 29.
Yeah.
Remember, Saquon Barkley had like 10 yards
rushing, and then Henry had next 42 yards or something like that.
Yeah, the Titans only had 8 too, and I think a big chunk of that was a Tannehill run, if I remember. Cleveland only had 75 yards rushing in their first game. I mean,
I think if the Steelers would not have gotten hurt up the middle in the defense, if we would have maintained with Bush and Bud Dupree, then we wouldn't even be having some of the conversations that we're having. And frankly, I don't think that they would have gone into that losing streak either.
No, I don't think so either. But I just think it was just a combination of timing and matchups.
But I'm glad they went through it. Now.
Yeah, no, in a way you have to be, right?
Because now we get it out of the way, and okay, you had your losses, all right. And it's just like you said earlier. And I've seen this all throughout the whole Twitter world. If you tell me at the beginning of the season that the Steelers were going to go 12-14 or 13-3 or whatever, and they were going to win the division, well, you would be all in for that, wouldn't you?
Oh, totally. But I think the thing that with their issue that made it so different is that it was just this really unique situation of,
we lost.
Well, it was how they lost, and it was the fact that all season everybody was like, everybody's really acting like we're terrible, which was wrong. Like, I still agree that even though we lost 3 games in a row, like, I still agree that the hate that they were getting for being 11-0 from the like national media, like people wanting to take them down, was pretty ridiculous.
Agreed.
Quite honestly, because 11-0 is 11-0. I don't care how you get there. There's been like 20 teams in the history of the NFL that have done that. So that's it's still something. And so, but the thing with them is, I think, just the way in which it happened, and specifically the story with Roethlisberger, where, I mean, this guy is my hero. He's been my sports hero more than half my life, and that's not an exaggeration.
Okay.
I'm 30. He's been the quarterback since I was 14.
Okay,
I mean, so this is my hero. This hurts me to say. I was at a point where I was like, man, I think we're here with my guy, and this sucks. It sucked. I just thought maybe we're at this point.
I don't think we are.
And I don't think we are anymore. And so to me, if you tell me that we have the real Ben Roethlisberger, and most importantly, Ben Roethlisberger thinks we have the real Ben Roethlisberger, then we can win a Super Bowl, and we can do whatever we need to do. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm not saying they will. You could play Patrick Mahomes and have a perfect game like Ben did 2 years ago, and lose 45-42, and it's like, it is what it is. I mean, they're that good.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do believe that our combination of quarterback and defense gives us as good of a chance, or better, than just about anybody else to actually do that.
Other than Kansas City. Because that would be the.
I'm saying to beat Kansas City.
Okay. That would be my only thing.
Kansas City's in a unique class. I don't want to give them that credit, but they're in a unique class where their quarterback and the way their offense is run is. It puts them in a separate world from everybody else. Like, the Packers are playing really well right now. They're not in that universe. Kansas City's in its own universe right now, and I believe the Steelers are actually the best team that has a chance to be.
I was just going to say, because I think of all things and of all the teams out there, I think the Steelers' defense matches up.
It does. Better. No, that's why I say that.
With Kansas City than even with, like, say, the Ravens or with the Dolphins or anybody else. I think they match up better. I think the matchups favor the Steelers more so against Kansas City than they do against some of the other teams.
No, I completely agree. I mean, when you look at it, who else has what you would call an elite defense and the level of quarterback that Ben is?
Exactly.
No one. I mean, no one.
And none of the other teams, like even look, you can talk about Tyreek Hill and all that, and he's all good and all that, but he is not Minka Fitzpatrick.
No.
Right? Okay.
No.
And they don't. There's nobody else out there other than TJ that's playing on any of the other teams. Okay, because is Bostic, isn't he hurt? He's out, right? For Kansas City, or their main guy is out, right? He's hurt.
Oh, you mean the running back?
No, their defensive, their main defensive guy.
Their middle linebacker.
Yeah.
I forget.
I can't.
But yeah, I mean their defense is not good at all.
The fact that they have to score 40 points a game.
Oh yeah,
that's no defense.
And they're down more often.
That's what I mean. There's no defense there.
It's just crazy though, man. When it's their scheme, it's their combination of their scheme and their skill players and their quarterback that makes it work. They look to me, they remind me of like the Showtime Lakers because they just move, man. They just, when they're like, all right, we gotta go score, they actually just go score. They do almost at will, and I'm not trying to like heap praise on them. I'm tired of hearing about how great they are. I think they can be beaten, but man, their offense is just—it's a different world.
They remind me a lot of the Greatest Show on Turf.
Yeah, I can see that, but I never thought that the quarterback was as dominant. Warner was great, and he had great moments. But he didn't scare me in the way Mahomes does, where I'm like, this guy could do anything.
That's because Kurt Warner, all he could do was throw, where Mahomes is actually a threat to run the ball, too.
Well, and he's just got his arm. I mean, the guy...
I've seen him make throws. I didn't think he'd make throws like that.
The guy, he is probably the highest level player in any sport I've seen where the hyperbole is not too much.
Agreed.
I mean... You can say anything you want about him, no matter how hyperbolic, and it's true.
Yeah, because
he is that good.
The future Hall of Famer.
It's not even over the top at this point.
Like that's even just.
It's exhausting, and I hate that. We just got through this time where it's like, oh, finally Brady's gone, finally Manning's gone. It's like
and now it's Mahomes. So we still can't get Roethlisberger to be on the top.
Problem.
Even though he is.
It's going to be a problem forever because he's that good. But you know what? He wears the wrong colors, and so I don't care about him.
I'm with you on that one, my man. I'm with you on that. Speaking of wearing wrong colors, man, how about if we I think Steelers are going to do well in the playoffs. You think they're going to do well in the playoffs? Man, I'll tell you what. I'd like to do this again. We could sit here and talk about this all day long, right?
Absolutely. All day.
Well, I'll tell you what.
This is just what I'm doing in my head. It's just now I'm doing it out
loud.
How
about that? Steve, this has been great, my man. I want to do this again, man. I think this was a really good success, and I can't wait to see how we deal with things, especially moving forward after next week, and especially after the Steelers, make it into the playoffs and how they play the first game and everything like that. So, why don't you tell all the good folks how we can get a hold of you, where we can get all your great information and all other stuff?
Sure. I mean, the most important thing to follow or to subscribe to is my YouTube channel, which is 5-Star Matchup. It's a pretty good channel. We do wrap up every week. It's kind of comedic.
I don't miss it.
But
what's that? I don't miss it. No, well, I don't miss it.
You're a huge supporter, and I appreciate you for that. But and then you can follow me on Twitter at 5-Star Matchup. Pretty much any social platform where you can follow people, you can follow me at 5-Star Matchup.
And we all know why he's called 5-Star Matchup, because it's a 5-star matchup because he's in it.
Yes, that is why.
I'm SteelFlyers, and this has been awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Check out the website, www.steelflyers.com, where you can get all the great information, all the great content, and all the great sports packages and all kinds of fun stuff. Come on and check it out. We got all the great information for you right there. This has been SteelFlyers. Just remember, stay safe, stay strong, and hang tough.